So calf training, overrated, underrated?
Underrated. And let me tell you why.
Okay.
I would say in the powerlifting realm, most people don't train their calves. Now, you may say, okay, they're not directly used in any lifts, blah, blah, blah. But have you ever done a sumo deadlift where your calves cramp up?
I mean, I haven't personally, but I have heard of it.
I have, and that's when I realized how much the calves are involved. Like, you might not be directly, flexing and extending your ankle, but the calf muscles are being used. So I feel like because it is a prominent muscle, even if you're not training the calves specifically for size, it makes sense to train that joint and make it stronger. So I feel like it's a lot of people overlook training the calves, even if it's just one exercise for a couple sets, maybe twice a week. I feel like that's something that everyone should do, again, even if your goal isn't specifically to increase calf size. Now, from the bodybuilding standpoint, still underrated because calves are always an afterthought when it comes to workout programming. The people that complain they can't get their calves to grow no matter what they do are the ones that always put it at the end of leg day and just do a couple sets and just move on and never really make it a priority. So I feel like if someone's truly trying to make their calves grow, they need to, one, actually program it with priority, and two, focus on progressive overload and trying to get stronger on the calves, because I feel like calves are one exercise to where people don't actually try to progress long term. It's kind of just go in and do the same thing, do some reps, and think you're training your calves hard.
Yeah. Well, I also think calves are underrated in just the general lifting community too, because it's very rare to see anybody really train your calves hard. But think about it, when you're wearing shorts in the summer, really the only part of your leg that's visible is your calves. And all the memes, like the joke of guys who skip leg day.
Mm-hmm.
What are 9 times out of 10? It's not even, you're not even skipping leg day because they're guys that are in shorts and their legs look really small. It's their calves. Like, they could have huge quads, but if they're wearing baggy shorts and they have tiny little calves, it's like, oh, that guy skips leg day. Right, it's like, well, maybe he just skips calf day.
Right. Yeah. Or he just does a couple sets of standing calf raises and calls it a day.
Probably doesn't skip it, just doesn't train them very hard.
Right. But no, it's not often you see someone actually progress on calf training, because any person I've known personally, like a friend, that complains about their calves not growing, you ask them what they do, and it's always the same. Oh, I do 3 sets of this, 3 sets of that. It's like, oh, how much strength have you gained on the exercise over the past 3 years? None. Like, just do the same. I don't even track it. I just go in and do it. So I think it's calf training is just viewed as very simple. Just do a couple sets, call it a day. But I think,
well, I haven't ever had a calf cramp, but I will say on a powerlifting lower body workout, so squats and deadlifts, my calves have gotten sore before.
Mm-hmm.
So that, a hard squat and deadlift session, my calves have been sore.
Yeah. So again, I think that while you're not flexing and extending the ankle joint, the calf muscles are still being used.
Yep.
So, yes.
So what's the protocol? All right. So let's say I say, Derek, okay, I've, been powerlifting training for better part of the last 10 years. I don't really take my calf training serious, but you know what? Now I want to have some big ass calves. I want to have some Derek size calves. What's the protocol?
So this is what I would say the protocol is. If you're training just to train the movement, the muscles, not specifically trying to get them as big as possible, you could do standing calf raises at one workout and seated calf raises another workout. If you're trying to get your calves as big as possible, you would do both exercises twice a week. But here's the protocol for getting size. Workout 1, standing calf raises, 3 sets of like 4 to 8 reps. Then seated calf raises, 3 sets of 8 to 15 reps. The second workout, you flip it. Start with seated calf raises, 3 sets of 4 to 8 reps. Then standing calf raises, 3 sets of 8 to 15 reps. Now, once you have that in place, you're trying to gain strength over the course of the next months. So if you started off doing standing calf raises, let's say 120 for 8, your goal is to get that, get those 4 to 8 rep ranges as heavy as possible. And that's where people go wrong, because they typically won't progress on strength over the long term. Maybe they'll go up, a plate here or there, but they're not actually trying to beat the logbook every week. So you could use the same double progression we always talk about. Stick with the weight until you get 8 reps. Once you get 8 reps, up the weight. And then start with that weight as your first work set the next week.
So 12 hard sets of calves per week.
Yeah.
All right. I might try it.
Yeah. I mean, realistically, if you're doing that, you're performing the straight-legged calf raise and the bent leg calf raise. You're hitting the muscle, the gastrocnemius and soleus directly with each of those twice a week. Vary the rep ranges. Try to get stronger over time.
So right now, what I'm doing is I'm doing just to train the movements. I'm doing one day standing calf raises, 3 sets of like 8 to 10. And then I'll do the next leg day will be seated calf raises.
Yeah.
And 3 sets. So it's,
I think
I got to double it.
That's the basic entry level calf training. Because again, at that point, you're training the calves, they will respond, but you're not really giving them a lot of volume to where they're going to grow a lot bigger.
Yep. Now, before we move on, I feel like we had to dig into calf training a little bit today, but so training the anterior tibialis, what about that?
So one of the gyms I go to recently has one of the little tibialis anterior calf raises, whatever you want to call it.
The tip
I
raise.
liked it. I tried it, like, it actually felt pretty good. I don't know how much of a difference it's going to make as far as calf size, because I've never done it consistently enough to notice a difference. But it felt like it's probably good for overall joint health and integrity, because that movement's not often trained.
Well, the knee guy is big on those, isn't he?
Is he?
The knees over toes guy?
Yeah.
Whatever happened to him? I haven't heard about him in like years.
He gave his secrets away.
No, seriously, I just thought about that.
I don't know.
Now.
I don't know.
I haven't heard his name in at least a year. But wasn't he big on that?
I don't know, but it would make sense, because that's probably one of the things that people don't often train. I know he's big on the backward sled pulling.
Yeah. But I think he was big on training the anterior tibialis.
I believe it, because that kind of goes back to what I was saying, to where athletes, powerlifters train certain movements and muscle groups and often neglect others. I would say the majority of lifters, 99%, neglect the tibialis anterior, myself included. So
when I was in high school, and I don't know why, but I remember doing, just after I would do calves, I would do my standing calf raise or whatever, and I'd pretty much just superset it, turn right around, and unweighted, just do the, nice tib raise. I don't know why, but I remember doing it in high school, and I stopped doing it. I haven't done it probably since consistently, but I do remember doing it. I have no idea why I started doing it.
There's a time period I held like a dumbbell between my shoes and did it for, I don't think I ever did it consistently for months, but there was times I'd throw it in and try it. But yeah, I'd be curious what actual changes would happen if you, so let's say with the protocol I mentioned, at the end of both of those, let's say you did 2 sets at the end of, you did a couple of tibialis anterior raises twice a week. It'd be interesting to see.
So now we're up to 16 sets for lower legs.
You want some big calves.
I think that might be overrated.
I don't know. Yeah, to be honest, I don't know. I've never done it consistently enough to know. So that'd be a good experiment to try out. I'm probably gonna train exclusively at one gym for a little bit, and I think they have a little contraption, kind of like the dumbbell thing where you hold and you can do it. So I'll see if I can start doing that, because as most people know, I don't train my calves anymore.
Yeah, you just have big calves.
Because I have above average genetics for calf size, and realistically, I don't need nor want bigger calves. We joked about this. I'll go through spurts where I will start training calves again, and then I can't get my knee sleeves on. So it's like, there's one workout, it's probably after I trained calves twice a week for a few weeks, and I couldn't get my knee sleeves off. And mind you, I wear larges in the SBDs, so they're not super tight by any means.
Well, your calves are so big, it's limiting how tight your knee sleeves can be.
That's why I never understood how guys in my weight class were getting on smalls, like the SBD smalls or even extra smalls in some cases. I can barely get the large over my calf. There's no way I could get even a medium over my calf.
Well, guys in my weight class wear extra smalls. I wear mediums, and I don't have big calves, but mediums take everything I have to get. I bought smalls because almost everyone in my weight class wears smalls, but a lot of them wear extra smalls.
Right.
I wear mediums. I'm like, I'll at least buy smalls.
So I
It's
thought
like
about
blood flow restriction.
I thought about buying mediums for that reason. I was like, man, everyone's wearing smalls. I need to at least try a medium, but I ended up not buying them because I was just like, it's not worth it. I don't feel like you
Yeah, I
said, I
bought
don't
the
feel like
smalls, but I don't wear them. It was too tight.
yeah,
I
I
don't know.
imagine. So calf training overall underrated. Tibialis anterior training to be determined.
To be determined.
To be determined.
We'll see.